Hey, lovelies. It's Friday night, Shabbat Shalom. Only a couple of Friday nights left before the solstice and the return of the light. Although I know for me, this deep darkness feels like it lasts at least another month beyond the solstice. I know how it affects my rhythms. So, in this beautiful darkness that invites, I don't know, introspection, stillness, and growth, I've had some interesting awarenesses come to me this week that I wanted to share with you about gathering my thoughts, about gathering thoughts. I was sitting in my doctor's office the other day, and for some reason, I brought my journal that I keep in the car, my art journal, with me. So I opened it up and I took some moments in stillness to gather my thoughts and make notes of the things I wanted to make sure to ask, to talk about, which turned out to be really useful. So useful, I did it twice. I did it both on my appointment on Monday and my appointment today. It made this thought gathering moment, putting everything into one place that was important to me, that came to me in that moment of gathering, made me feel really prepared and confident that I was asking the things I needed to ask. And I felt more complete than I usually do at the end of these kinds of appointments, where I'd often be walking down the stairs going, "Oh, why didn't I ask about that?" So that moment of gathering was really useful, like real-time useful, and something I'm going to invite myself to do more often. But there were more awarenesses that came from this thinking about my thought gathering. Here's what I'm beginning to see. Thoughts are flying through all the time. I hang out with people that talk about things like this. I have heard that as humans, we generate up to 70,000 thoughts a day. That's like 48 thoughts a minute, which is kind of staggering. And I've experimented. I think it may be true. One day when I couldn't think of anything better to do, waiting for my food at a restaurant, I started counting my thoughts, and I think I hit 50 in under a minute. It gets a little dizzying because first I'm counting my thoughts, then I start thinking about counting, and then I start counting the thoughts I'm thinking about, counting my thoughts. So it does get dizzying. I am not accurate I don't even know how they would measure it. Interesting. So back to the awareness. Gathering your thoughts is also, I'm seeing an invitation to take a quiet moment and look around this thought verse. This is a word I've just made up today. This thought verse of yours. It feels like an intentional time to call in the relevant thoughts that have passed through recently so I can use them, take action on them. Whatever it is I want or need to do, like prepare for a meeting with my doctor. I also think it's empowering when I realize that I can trust the spark that generates. I can trust the spark that generates. I'm reading this, I don't want to mess it up. Each and every one of my thoughts so that they're available when I need them. You know, those moments where a thought will flit in and you go, oh my God, I want to remember that next time I talk to this doctor. But sometimes you don't write it down in the moment. I'm starting to trust that thought is still going to be there when I need it. I really do. I've had some time now to look back on these two appointments, and nothing feels incomplete about the thoughts I gathered in. And if something is incomplete and some thought comes back to me later on, I can deal with it then. There's more trust in how thoughts come in, hang out, go out than there used to be. So I think that there's an opening there, which for me kind of is proving the theory that I've been hearing, that thoughts are by their very nature neutral. Thoughts fly through like birds in the sky, and if I don't grab on to a thought in particular or add a ton of value to it, it will pass on by. How it's really kind of sweet to notice that quiet and gathering is available at any particular moment, which is really good for me because I'm getting older and I find myself walking into a room with no memory of what it is I was going after when I was walking in there. And sometimes I'll make that invitation to gather. I'll invite the thought back in. Sometimes it will come to me, sometimes it won't. And again, that trust leaves me free to spend less time worrying about which outcome I get. Freedom. One more layer. Let's go one more layer. Okay. In that moment of quiet stillness, in that moment of invitation, you could look at your thoughts, look around, and when you're seeing your thoughts as neutral, I'm finding I can release the ones that I'm done with, that aren't serving me now, that aren't true for me now. Even if I thought they were true a million times before, even if I knew they were true. If they're not true for me now, I can let them go into a further outer orbit in my thought verse. When you're in that neutrality and that trust, I think it gets harder and harder to believe the negative thinking, to believe that you have to keep believing the same shit you believed yesterday. Thoughts that are beneficial, thoughts that are not, thoughts that don't serve you, thoughts that help you feel like crap about yourself, they're all just thoughts, and they're neutral by nature. It's what we put on them that makes them feel that some of them are realer than others. This is liberating. Think about it. Not only can you gather in the thoughts you need and can make use of, but you can also, in that same gentle, discerning space, acknowledge the thoughts that aren't helping you and invite them to keep moving on, to fly by, or at least to go out into the outer, be the Pluto ring of your thoughts. I don't know. I'm making this up. I don't even know if this metaphor that came to me today will make sense to me tomorrow, but it's the one that's coming out of my mouth right now. Your thought verse contains tons and tons and tons of thoughts that just keep getting generated 70,000 times a day. Shift the relationship. How nice to think you could shift the relationship. I find in myself every moment I spend in a benign contemplation of this thought generating engine and what it's doing. It makes it easier for me to gather in the thoughts that are useful, the thoughts you want to jot down before a meeting or an appointment, the thoughts you want accessible when you look in the mirror, thoughts of love instead of thoughts of judgment and disappointment. When you see your thinking and your relationship to your thoughts as neutral, can change your relationship to yourself, I think. That's what I'm experiencing when I no longer feel compelled to believe some of my thoughts are more real than others and more important than others. I'm free to love, free to forgive, free to reframe, free to celebrate, free to tolerate joy and well-being. And I will take it. On a recording of a conversation yesterday, I heard Amir Karkudi quote Alan Watts. The quote is, "You're not obligated to be the person you were 5 minutes ago. Amir then added his take on it. You're not obligated to be the person you were one experience ago. To which I say, exactly. Okay, blessed be. Let me know what you think. Thanks a lot. Have a beautiful, beautiful, restful weekend.